Hi everyone, Anahita Rao here today speaking about relationships, and I'm going to start off with a relationship analysis. I'm going to show you two charts of a famous couple, and I'm going to show you that besides the traditional Ashta Koota points system of compatibility, there is much more to look at when you are coming to a conclusion about whether two people are a good match. So I'm going to use the charts of Lisa Bonet, she's an actress, and her ex-husband Lenny Kravitz, who is a musician. I'm going to take what I call the 10-factor analysis, and it's going to become clear why the relationship didn't ultimately work out. It will also become clear that we cannot depend entirely on the Koota points-based system, which I know that many astrologers still do. For analyzing compatibility, we have to stretch beyond that, rather than just looking at a score out of 36, yeah? So just to list the 10 factors that I'm going to see here. There may be others, but I'm going to focus on the 10 because I think these are key. First one being the Lagna Lord of both people. Second, the Darakaraka, which is the planet with the lowest degree, representing the spouse. And then I will look at the position of Venus, and then I will also look at the Tithi Lord for both of them. I will look at the Chandra Lord, the 7th Lord, of course, and the 7th house. That's quite basic. And then their placement in the D9, the Navamsha. The Upapada Lagna. Any doshas that show up, especially if it's an early marriage. It's very, very important to consider. And of course, finally, the Koota system. I'm going to look at the point system as well. Yeah, so let's get started with that. Okay, so let's get started with the analysis. I'm going to pull up their charts and have them side by side so we can view them together. All right, so here we go. Let's have a look here. First, we have Lenny Kravitz. And his Lagna is Sagittarius, so of course making Jupiter the Lagna Lord. Then we have Lisa Bonet. Her ascendant is Gemini, making Mercury the Lagna Lord. They both are going into the 5th house. But Mercury and Jupiter are not friendly to each other. So this can create a different set of values as well as thinking. Of course, we could even go deeper into the analysis and see that they're being affected by other planets that may not be compatible with them. Now let's look at the second factor here, and that's the Darakaraka. Again, that is the lowest degree planet, signifying the spouse. So for Lisa, that would be the moon, situated in the 12th house, very exalted in Taurus. Whereas Lenny, that's Saturn, sitting in the 3rd house. in Aquarius. Of course, we know that both Saturn and Moon are inimical to each other. The dark arca generally shows the partner on a level of karma and on a level on a very soul level. So, well, she is looking for someone that resonates with the qualities of an exalted moon, perhaps pure in their thinking, nurturing, caring, but a bit mysterious too, because this is the 12th house. And it's a very bright moon. On the other hand, he's searching for someone who may be a little bit more simple, earthy, but unconventional in their thoughts, as it's in Sagittarius. Definitely someone in the arts, symbolized by the 3rd house. Now, the position of Venus, which is the 3rd factor, and this becomes very important because it's the Karaka for marriage and the spouse, generally. Now, let's see Lisa. Venus is debilitated in her chart, but it's in the 4th house, which means it's Digbala. So it does hold the promise of domestic bliss, but being debilitated and getting the aspect of a very strong retrograde Saturn does not bode well for Venus. So this will not come till later in life, I would imagine, the domestic bliss that she seeks. In her D9 in the Navamsha chart, you can see right here, Venus goes into Taurus, which is lovely, but it's with Rahu. Not so great. Suggesting deception in relationships. In Lenny's chart, Venus is also with Rahu, but in the 7th house, very prominent here in Ardra. This tends to spoil the Karaka of Venus and makes this person prone to illicit relationships and extramarital affairs, which is incidentally the reason that their marriage finally broke in the end, because he had an affair. So you see that signature in both of their charts. Her Venus Rahu conjuncts in the D9. The D9, of course, is it suggests what the spouse will be like. Now, with him, Venus goes into the 9th house of his D9, which is a nice position. But Rahu still stays in the 7th. Yeah. And I believe he did not remarry, so that's going to bring issues in relationships. Rahu's 7th house placement. Now let's look at 7th Lord from Venus. Now, the 7th Lord from Venus is actually meant to bring the partner, whereas the 7th house, if it contains a planet from Venus again, describes the nature of the partner. Yeah. Now let's look at Lisa. Okay, well, 7th house, 7th Lord from Venus, of course, is Jupiter, which is supposed to bring the partner, we'd said. That goes into the 3rd house, Leo. And of course, he's a famous person. 3rd house signifying music, arts, also acting. Again, that makes him a fit. She met her husband, Lenny, during her career as a TV actress. And at the time, he was an established musician, I believe. But if you look closely, you see Saturn there, 7 from Venus. That too a retrograde Saturn. It's in Pisces.
So this suggests someone older, perhaps more established than her. Being retrograde, there's certainly a past life connection with a spouse. Could, of course, be someone completely the opposite of what Saturn represents, which is older. So it could be someone very, very, very much younger. And actually, I believe her second marriage is to someone who is about 12 years younger than her. With Lenny, again, 7th from Venus is also lorded by Jupiter, interestingly enough. And where does Jupiter go? Jupiter goes into his 5th house. Again, suggesting someone famous and in the entertainment industry. Again, we also see Ketu there. So Ketu is making an impact, suggesting a strong past life link. This, of course, is an affliction. It's also aspected by Rahu, which is a malefic. Her 7th house from Venus has Saturn, also an affliction. Saturn and Ketu are not, of course, good for marriage because they are both separative planets and represent isolation and separation and sorrow in relationship. Very much capable of leading to the breakdown of the marriage, which is what they ultimately did. Now, let's look at the next factor, which is the Tithi Lord. Yeah. Tithi Lord for Lenny is the sun. We're looking up here. Tithi is Krishna Pratipada, and that is lorded by the sun. Okay? But it goes into the 6th house, the sun. Again, suggesting loss of relationship. Tithi Lord for Lisa is, so we've got Shukla Purnima here. So Tithi Lord for Lisa is Saturn, which is in the 10th house, also retrograde. And as we know, both Saturn and Sun are inimical to each other. Now, what's another factor? Let's look at Chandra Lord. Of course, the most obvious. Chandra Lord for Lisa is Venus, and Chandra Lord for Lenny is Mars. Again, they have an inimical relationship. All right, 7th house from Chandra. Let's have a look at that. For Lenny, that would be the sun as he's born near the full moon. There's actually complete harmony here. Yeah. Because each other represents the 7th house from the moon. They're both born near the full moon. And there's no other aspects to their respective 7th houses from the moon, which is quite good. Seventh Lord and 7th house. Let's have a look here. For Lisa, that's Jupiter. Jupiter is a 7th Lord. It's getting an aspect of Rahu. So again, suggesting perhaps some sort of deception in relationships because Jupiter is the Karaka for husband. Mars also sits in her 7th house. Here, Mars being the 6th Lord does not bode well for marriage, being that it's in the 7th house. In any case, we don't want Mars in the 7th house. Let's see, for Lenny, we've got Mercury representing the 7th Lord, and that goes into the 5th house. But it's an enemy space there with Mars. Again, suggesting a breakdown in relationship. 7th house itself is also damaged because it's got the Venus-Rahu conjunction, suggesting too many relationships, to which I think he's admitted. So, Now, in the Navamsha, the seventh lord for Lenny is with Mercury. Yeah, if you can see that in the fourth house, the exalted Mercury, which is quite good. But his DK Saturn, the dark arca, goes into the eighth house. So this does not bode well. As such, people have to learn to control their passion and sexuality in their life. When you see that, when you see the DK going into the eighth like that. Seventh lord for Lisa goes into a pretty good position as well. So the third house. Of course, we know that the third house is also a kama house and can be sexual desire here. But that's not so bad, because if we look at Jupiter in the D9, it goes into its exaltation place in the second house. Already suggesting a good second relationship in life. Yeah. Also, her DK moon goes into the eighth house as well. The same that we saw with Lenny. In fact, they have the same ascendant in the D9, which is another reason for the attraction. Now, if we look at their Ashta Koota compatibility points, they're actually very good. If you see that, it's 28.5, which is fantastic. The only area that's challenging here is the Mars and Venus connection, because they don't get along. But everything else is quite stellar. Of course, as I said, we cannot actually just rely on this and say that it's going to be either a good relationship or either B, a successful relationship, because obviously we know in this case it ended in infidelity and divorce and so on. Yeah. Now let's look at the Upapada Lagna. Now this Lagna tends to show the actual spouse. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the calculation of how you get there, but if you've got a good software, it's going to tell you what that is anyway. So let's have a look at that. The UL for Lisa is Capricorn. Yeah. That's her eighth house. And the Upapada Lagna in the eighth house is indicative of what's called Dushta Karma from past lives related to marriage. It's not positive. And here we have the Lord of the Upapada Lagna, a retrograde Saturn in the 10th house. Saturn is also eighth Lord and second Lord from the Upapada Lagna, which shows the sustenance of marriage. So again, we've got a malefic representing that, meaning chances of breaking the marriage is high. Again, the Upapada Lagna is placed in the 12th from the Aruda Lagna. Her Aruda Lagna is Aquarius. So then we've got a 212 connection going on, which we don't like. It's not favorable for compatibility between the partners. Aruda Lagna representing herself and the Upapada Lagna representing the partner. It shows that either she may reject the spouse and not be emotionally or physically in harmony with his need for affection and attention, or he may do that. Yeah. So, but here I think she would have rejected him because he's represented by Capricorn, and that's 12th from Aquarius, if you can see that. Now let's look at Lenny. So the UL for Lenny is in the 10th house. Yeah. In Virgo. That's the 10th house. Whose Lord Mercury is with 12th house Lord Mars in a conjunction. But Jupiter's also there. So there's a blessing. It is also in war, though, with Jupiter. Jupiter being the Lagna Lord. If you can see, it's less than a degree away. Mercury and Jupiter. Now, the second from UL is lorded by Venus. Right here. Sun is also there. Sun is a malefic. Remember, we don't want that second from the UL. Second from the UL basically shows the sustenance of the marriage. So we don't want a malefic there. It's lorded by Venus, and that doesn't help the situation because Venus goes into the 7th with Rahu, which again can show affairs in the marriage, leading to a breakdown. Now, finally, we look at any doshas that they might have. Well, of course, the first thing that pops out is this one here, the Mars, the Manglik dosh, which Lisa has. And it would be okay, well, at least it would be more balanced if Lenny also had that, but he doesn't. They married on her 20th birthday, very young for her. And we know that when it comes to Manglik dosh, we always say that it's much better to wait till after 28. And I would say wait till you're 30 at least, or at 31 after you've had your Saturn return is best, according to me. And here's the interesting thing. When is Manglik dosh going to be strongest? Well, under 30, as I said. And also when you're running the Mars Mahadasha. And at the time of her marriage, she happened to be running the Mars Mahadasha. So it was 1987. She would have been in Mars Venus at the time. Yeah, as you can see. And Lenny was in Venus. Lenny was in Venus Sun. So this would have increased the Martian energy in a relationship and led to fights, particularly since Mars does not mature until later, as I said. Now, one more thing I wanted to add, I mean, that's the 10-factor analysis right there. And it's actually quite easy to go through it with 2 charts. I think it's, things will just, the areas of, the challenging areas will just pop up more clearly than they would with just the points-based analysis. But one more thing I wanted to add, though, is what I look at is I also see what dasha the person is running when they're entering the relationship, whether that's a serious relationship or marriage. For instance, if one is running Rahu Mars and another one is in Saturn Moon, it's probably not a good omen for the start. Here, though, we didn't really have that problem because he was in Venus Sun and she was in Mars Venus, so that's quite good. And that almost immediately indicates that it's a passionate love marriage. So based on attraction, based on love. Okay, so that is it for now. And I hope that you found that useful. Feel free to leave your comments and your thoughts below. Thank you, folks.